Every night, you look up at the moon and see a beautiful celestial body. But what if I told you that you're actually looking at the only reason you're alive? Without that glowing sphere, Earth would be a spinning nightmare of 6-hour days, chaotic weather, and zero complex life. The moon didn't just happen to show up. It was born from the most catastrophic event in our planet's history, and then spent the next 4.5 billion years carefully engineering the exact conditions needed for life to not just survive, but thrive. Before we dive into this mind-blowing cosmic story, smash that like button if you're ready to discover why scientists now believe the moon is the most important object in our solar system for the existence of life. Because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you think about that simple rock floating above us. This isn't just astronomy. This is the secret origin story of every living thing on Earth, including you. To understand the moon's role in creating life, we need to travel back to a time when our solar system was an absolute hellscape of cosmic violence. Picture this. 4.5 billion years ago, Earth wasn't the blue marble we know today. It was a seething ball of molten rock, constantly bombarded by asteroids and comets in what scientists call the Late Heavy Bombardment. The atmosphere was toxic, the surface was liquid lava, and the very concept of life seemed impossible. But hidden within this chaos was the setup for the most important collision in the history of life itself. The story begins with a planet that no longer exists, but whose sacrifice made everything possible. Scientists have named this world Theia, after the Greek titaness who gave birth to the moon goddess Selene. Theia was roughly the size of Mars, about half the diameter of Earth. But what made it special wasn't its size, it was its trajectory. This rogue planet had been wandering through the early solar system, its orbit gradually shifting due to gravitational interactions with the gas giants Jupiter and Saturn, until fate set it on a collision course with the young Earth. Now, when I say collision, I want you to understand the sheer scale of what we're talking about here. This wasn't like two cars crashing. This was like two nuclear weapons the size of planets slamming into each other at 25,000 miles per hour. The energy released in this impact was equivalent to 100 million times the energy of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. To put that in perspective, if the dinosaur-killing asteroid was a firecracker, the Theia impact was like detonating every nuclear weapon on Earth simultaneously, then multiplying that by 1 billion. The moment of impact was so violent that it instantly vaporized the surfaces of both planets. Rock that had been solid for millions of years became superheated gas in microseconds. The collision was so energetic that it actually tilted Earth's axis to the 23.5-degree angle we have today, the very tilt that gives us our seasons and helps maintain our stable climate. But the most incredible part wasn't the destruction. It was what happened next. The impact ejected an enormous amount of material into space, creating a ring of molten debris around Earth that looked like Saturn's rings, but made of liquid rock instead of ice. This ring system was incredibly hot, temperatures reaching thousands of degrees Celsius, and it glowed like a miniature sun orbiting our planet. Within just a few hours, gravity began pulling this material together, and within 1,000 years, it had coalesced into our moon. This process, called accretion, was surprisingly fast in cosmic terms, but the moon that emerged was radically different from what we see today. The early moon was a hell world of its own. It orbited Earth at a distance of only about 15,000 miles. Compare that to today's 240,000 miles. At this close distance, the moon appeared absolutely massive in the sky, roughly 15 times larger than it appears to us now. Imagine looking up and seeing a moon so large it filled a significant portion of the sky, glowing red hot from its recent formation. The tidal forces at this distance were beyond imagination. Instead of our gentle ocean tides that rise and fall by a few feet, the early Earth experienced tides of molten rock hundreds of feet high that swept across the planet's surface twice daily. But how do we know all this actually happened? After all, we're talking about events that occurred billions of years before humans existed, before life itself existed. The evidence comes from multiple sources, and it's absolutely compelling. First, we have the moon rocks brought back by the Apollo missions between 1969 and 1972. When scientists analyzed these samples, they discovered something remarkable. The moon's composition is nearly identical to Earth's mantle. This is incredibly significant because if the moon had formed elsewhere in the solar system and been captured by Earth's gravity, it would have a completely different chemical signature. The identical composition proves that the moon and Earth were once part of the same body. Even more convincing is the isotopic evidence. Isotopes are different versions of the same element with varying numbers of neutrons. Each region of the solar system has its own unique isotopic fingerprint, like a cosmic DNA. The oxygen isotopes in moon rocks are identical to those found in Earth's mantle, but different from meteorites that come from Mars, asteroids, or other parts of the solar system. This isotopic matching is smoking gun evidence that the moon formed from Earth material. The giant impact hypothesis was first proposed in the 1970s by scientists William Hartmann and Donald Davis, building on earlier work by Reginald Aldworth Daly in the 1940s. Initially, their theory was met with skepticism. At the time, 3 other theories dominated scientific thinking about lunar formation. The fission theory suggested that the moon broke off from a rapidly spinning Earth. The capture theory proposed that the moon formed elsewhere and was captured by Earth's gravity. The co-accretion theory suggested that the moon and Earth formed together from the same disk of material. Each of these theories had serious problems that the giant impact hypothesis elegantly solved. The fission theory couldn't explain why the moon's orbit isn't aligned with Earth's equator, as it should be if the moon spun off from Earth. The capture theory couldn't explain the identical composition and the incredible precision required for such a capture. The co-accretion theory couldn't explain why the moon has such a small iron core compared to Earth. But the giant impact hypothesis explained all of these observations perfectly. Modern computer simulations have allowed scientists to model the impact in incredible detail. Using supercomputers that can perform quadrillions of calculations per second, researchers have recreated the collision thousands of times, adjusting variables like impact angle, speed, and the composition of both bodies. These simulations consistently show that a Mars-sized impactor hitting Earth at a glancing angle would produce exactly the Earth-Moon system we observe today. The simulations reveal that Theia didn't hit Earth head-on, but struck at about a 45-degree angle, which is crucial because a direct impact would have completely destroyed both planets, while too shallow an angle wouldn't have ejected enough material to form the moon. One of the most fascinating aspects of these simulations is what they reveal about Theia's fate. Rather than being completely destroyed, much of Theia's core actually merged with Earth's core. This means that deep inside our planet, we still carry remnants of the world that gave birth to our moon. Some scientists even suggest that the large, low shear velocity provinces detected deep in Earth's mantle, mysterious regions that show up on seismic scans, might be chunks of Thea's mantle that never fully integrated with Earth's interior. The impact also explains one of the moon's most puzzling characteristics, its unusually small iron core. While Earth's core makes up about 30% of its radius, the moon's core is only about 20% of its radius. This difference occurs because the giant impact ejected material primarily from the outer layers of both Earth and Theia, while most of the iron-rich cores remained behind and merged with Earth. The moon formed from the lighter, silicate-rich material that was blasted into orbit. Recent research has added even more support to the giant impact hypothesis. In 2016, scientists at Harvard analyzed moon rocks with unprecedented precision and found subtle differences in the ratios of potassium isotopes between Earth and moon samples. These differences are exactly what you would expect if the moon formed from a mixture of Earth and impactor material, with the impactor contributing about 20% of the moon's mass. This finding finally resolved one of the last criticisms of the giant impact hypothesis, that the moon and Earth were too similar chemically to have formed from a collision with another body. The timing of this collision was also crucial for life's eventual emergence. The impact occurred during the Hadean Eon, when Earth was still forming and life was impossible anyway. If such a massive collision had occurred later, after life had begun, it would have sterilized the planet completely. But happening when it did, the collision set up all the conditions that would later make life possible. The collision mixed and redistributed materials, helping to create the chemical diversity that life would eventually exploit. It established Earth's 24-hour rotation period, much longer than the 6-hour days Earth would have had without the collision. Most importantly, it created the moon itself, which would go on to play crucial roles in life's development. The collision also had another unexpected benefit. It may have helped deliver water to Earth's surface. The impact generated so much heat that it created a global magma ocean. But as this ocean cooled over millions of years, water vapor in the atmosphere condensed and fell as rain for thousands of years, creating the first oceans. Some scientists believe that the collision helped liberate water that had been trapped in minerals deep within the Earth, bringing it to the surface where it could support life. Understanding the giant impact also helps us appreciate just how rare the Earth-Moon system might be in the universe. The collision required an incredibly precise set of circumstances. Theia had to be exactly the right size. Too small, and it wouldn't have ejected enough material to form a large moon. Too large, and it would have destroyed Earth entirely. The impact angle had to be just right. Too steep, and both planets would have been obliterated. Too shallow, and no moon would have formed. The timing had to be perfect, early enough that life hadn't yet begun, but late enough that Earth had differentiated into core and mantle. Some scientists estimate that the probability of such a perfect collision is less than 1 in a billion. This rarity might explain why we haven't found any other Earth-Moon-like systems among the thousands of exoplanets we've discovered so far. It might also explain why complex life appears to be so rare in the universe. If large moons are necessary for complex life, and large moons require incredibly rare giant impacts to form, then Earth-like worlds capable of supporting complex life might be extraordinarily uncommon. The giant impact also established the initial conditions for all of the moon's later influences on life. The collision determined the moon's size, which controls the strength of its gravitational effects. It determined the moon's initial orbital distance, which has been gradually increasing ever since due to tidal interactions. It established the moon's synchronous rotation, which is why we always see the same face of the moon from Earth. All of these factors would prove crucial for life's development over the following billions of years. As we look back at this cosmic catastrophe, we see something remarkable. The most destructive event in Earth's history was also the most creative. The giant impact didn't just create the moon, it created the possibility of life itself. It was the first chapter in a 4.5 billion year story of partnership between Earth and its guardian moon, a relationship that would nurture life from its first tentative beginnings in ancient tidal pools to the complex biosphere we see today. Without Theia's sacrifice and the moon's birth, Earth would be just another barren planet orbiting an ordinary star. Instead, we have a world where life not only exists, but flourishes in incredible diversity and complexity, all thanks to a collision that happened when the solar system was young and violent, and the future of life hung in the balance. Now that we understand how the moon came to be, let's dive into what happened next. And this is where the story gets truly mind-blowing. Remember, the early moon was orbiting much closer to Earth, about 15,000 miles away, compared to today's 240,000 miles. At that distance, the moon wasn't just creating gentle ocean tides like we see today. It was unleashing absolutely massive tidal forces that literally reshape the planet's surface twice every day. We're talking about tidal waves hundreds of feet high that would make our most powerful tsunamis look like tiny ripples in a bathtub. But here's the incredible part. These weren't forces of destruction. They were forces of creation. These massive tides were about to become the most important laboratories in the history of life, mixing chemicals, concentrating nutrients, and creating the exact conditions needed for the first spark of life to ignite on our planet. The moon had just finished its violent birth, and now it was about to begin its career as life's greatest teacher and architect. To understand why these early tides were so powerful, think about how tides work today. The moon's gravity pulls on Earth's oceans, creating bulges of water on the sides of our planet facing toward and away from the moon. As Earth rotates, these bulges move around the planet, creating high and low tides. But the strength of tidal forces depends on distance, and it follows what scientists call the inverse cube law, which means that when you halve the distance, the tidal force becomes 8 times stronger. Since the early moon was about 16 times closer than it is today, the tidal forces were thousands of times more powerful than what we experience now. Picture the early Earth's coastlines, if you can even call them coastlines, because they were constantly changing. Twice a day, walls of water hundreds of feet high would surge inland, flooding vast areas of the continents. Then, as the tide retreated, it would leave behind countless pools and puddles scattered across the landscape. These weren't just random pools of water. They were nature's first chemistry labs, and they were about to cook up the recipe for life itself. The genius of these tidal pools wasn't immediately obvious, but Charles Darwin, the father of evolution theory, was one of the first to suspect their importance. In 1871, Darwin wrote a letter to his friend Joseph Hooker, where he described his idea about life beginning in some warm little pond with all sorts of chemicals and lighting present. Darwin was incredibly close to the truth, but he was thinking too small. It wasn't just one warm little pond. It was millions of tidal pools across the entire planet, all working together as a massive network of experimental laboratories. Modern science has proven that Darwin's intuition was brilliant, but the reality is even more fascinating than he imagined. These early tidal pools weren't just sitting there peacefully. They were dynamic, constantly changing environments that provided exactly the conditions needed for life's building blocks to form and evolve. Every time the tide came in, it brought fresh supplies of chemicals dissolved from rocks and minerals. Every time it went out, it concentrated those chemicals in the pools, creating a natural distillation process that increased the chances of important reactions happening. Dr. Richard Lath from Edinburgh University published groundbreaking research that shows how these tidal cycles may have been absolutely essential for creating RNA, the molecule that many scientists believe came before DNA and was crucial for the first forms of life. The key discovery is something called the wet-dry cycle effect. When the tide was in, organic chemicals could dissolve and move around freely in the water. But when the tide went out and the pools started to evaporate, those same chemicals became concentrated and were forced into close contact with each other. This wet-dry cycling did something remarkable. It created conditions where simple organic molecules could link together to form longer, more complex chains. It's like having a natural assembly line where the tide brings in raw materials, concentration forces them together, and the cycling process repeats over and over again, gradually building more and more complex molecules. Without these tidal cycles, the chemicals needed for life would have remained spread out and diluted in the vast oceans, never reaching the concentrations needed to form the first living molecules. But the tidal pools did something even more clever than just concentrating chemicals. They also provided energy for reactions to happen. When waves crashed into the pools during high tide, they created turbulence and mixing that helped different chemicals find each other and react. The constant churning and mixing meant that molecules weren't just sitting still. They were being constantly stirred together, increasing the chances that the right combinations would meet and form something new. The temperature changes in these pools were also crucial. During the day, the shallow pools would heat up from sunlight, speeding up chemical reactions. At night, they would cool down, allowing different types of reactions to occur. This daily temperature cycling, combined with the tidal cycling, created a complex rhythm of conditions that gave evolution many different chances to experiment with new molecular combinations. Recent experiments by scientists at Harvard and MIT have actually recreated these ancient tidal pool conditions in the laboratory, and the results are stunning. When they subject simple organic chemicals to the same wet-dry cycles that would have occurred in early tidal pools, they consistently see the formation of longer, more complex molecules, including some that are remarkably similar to the building blocks of RNA and DNA. These experiments prove that tidal pools weren't just possible locations for life. To begin, they were the perfect locations. But the moon's tidal influence didn't stop with creating the right chemical conditions. It also built the highways that life would later use to spread across the planet. As life eventually did emerge in these tidal pools, the same tidal forces that helped create it also helped spread it. Each tide carried living organisms from pool to pool, from shoreline to shoreline, creating a vast network of connected habitats where evolution could experiment and diversify. This is where we get to one of the most important chapters in Earth's history, the transition of life from water to land. For billions of years, all life existed in the oceans. The land was completely barren, a harsh environment of rocks and volcanic activity with no protection from the sun's deadly radiation. But the moon's tides created a bridge between these two worlds, and that bridge was the intertidal zone, the area between high and low tide marks. The intertidal zone was like a training ground for life to learn how to survive on land. Organisms living in tidal pools had to deal with dramatic changes in their environment twice every day. When the tide was in, they lived underwater like normal marine creatures. But when the tide went out, they had to survive in air, dealing with drying out, temperature changes, and exposure to sunlight. This constant challenge forced life to develop new abilities, ways to retain water, ways to breathe air, ways to protect themselves from UV radiation. Over millions of years, the organisms that were best at surviving these tidal cycles gradually developed the features that would eventually allow their descendants to live on land permanently. They developed stronger shells and coverings to prevent water loss. They developed primitive lungs or other ways to extract oxygen from air instead of water. They developed better ways to regulate their internal temperature and chemistry when conditions changed rapidly. The fossil record shows us exactly how this transition happened. Some of the earliest creatures to make the jump from water to land were arthropods, creatures like early crabs and insects that had already been living in tidal zones for millions of years. Later came the first amphibians, animals that could live both in water and on land. These creatures were perfectly adapted to the tidal lifestyle, spending part of their time in water and part on land, just like their tidal pool ancestors had been doing for eons. But here's something that will really blow your mind. The moon's influence on this transition wasn't just about providing the right environment. It was also about timing. The gradual slowing of Earth's rotation meant that tidal cycles were slowly getting longer, giving organisms more time to adapt to each phase of the cycle. This gradual change provided a perfect evolutionary ramp, slowly increasing the challenge and giving lifetime to develop new solutions. Modern research has revealed that the moon's tidal influence on life didn't end once life made it to land. Today, countless species still follow tidal rhythms, even when they live far from the ocean. Many plants and animals have internal clocks that match tidal cycles, suggesting that this ancient rhythm is still embedded deep in the genetic code of life on Earth. Researchers have found tidal rhythms in the behavior of everything from marine worms to migratory birds, showing that the moon's influence reaches far beyond the shoreline. Scientists studying coral reefs have discovered that many species time their reproduction to specific tidal and lunar cycles. The mass spawning events that happen on coral reefs, where millions of organisms release their eggs and sperm into the water at exactly the same time, are precisely timed to lunar and tidal cycles that maximize the chances of successful reproduction. This coordination is so precise that marine biologists can predict these events months in advance just by looking at lunar calendars. Even more fascinating, researchers have found that some organisms can maintain these tidal rhythms even when they're moved to laboratories far from any ocean. This suggests that the ability to track tidal cycles is built into their DNA, passed down from ancestors that lived in tidal zones millions of years ago. It's like they carry a piece of the ancient shoreline inside them, a genetic memory of their tidal origins. The importance of tidal zones continues today. Modern tidal pools are among the most biodiverse habitats on Earth, packed with an incredible variety of life forms that have evolved specialized ways of dealing with the constantly changing conditions. Scientists study these modern tidal communities to understand how life adapts to extreme environments, and what they learn often applies to understanding how life might survive in other challenging places, including potentially on other planets. But perhaps the most amazing thing about the moon's role as the tidal master is how it demonstrates the power of cycles and rhythms in shaping life. The daily rhythm of tides, the monthly rhythm of lunar phases, and the yearly rhythm of seasons all provided steady, predictable patterns that life could evolve around. These rhythms gave evolution a framework to work within, creating opportunities for specialization and adaptation that might not have existed in a more chaotic environment. As we look back at this incredible story, we can see that the moon didn't just accidentally help life get started. It actively shaped every step of life's journey, from simple chemicals to complex organisms capable of living on land. The tidal pools were life's first schools, teaching molecules how to become more complex. The intertidal zones were life's first gymnasiums, training organisms to survive in multiple environments. And the rhythmic cycles were life's first clocks, providing the steady beat that allowed evolution to compose the symphony of life we see today. Without the moon's tidal mastery, Earth's oceans would have been vast, unchanging bodies of water, where chemicals remained forever diluted and life never had the chance to concentrate and complexify. The transition to land would have been impossible because there would have been no bridge between water and land, no training ground where life could gradually develop the skills needed for terrestrial existence. We would be left with a planet of simple, single-celled organisms floating in endless seas, never developing the complexity and diversity that makes Earth the vibrant, living world we know today. While the moon was busy creating the perfect conditions for life to emerge in tidal pools, it was simultaneously performing another absolutely crucial job that most people never think about. Every single day, every hour, every minute, the moon is acting like a cosmic anchor, holding our planet steady in space and preventing Earth from wobbling chaotically like a broken spinning top. This might sound like a minor detail, but it's actually one of the most important factors that allowed complex life to evolve on our planet. Without the moon's steady gravitational grip keeping us stable, Earth would be a world of constant climate chaos, where evolution would never have had the time and predictability it needed to create the incredible diversity of life we see today. To understand why this is so important, we need to talk about something called axial tilt. Right now, Earth is tilted at an angle of 23.5 degrees compared to the plane of its orbit around the Sun. This tilt is the reason we have seasons. When the northern half of Earth is tilted toward the Sun, we get summer in the north and winter in the south, and vice versa 6 months later. This 23.5-degree tilt might seem random, but it's actually perfect for life. It's enough to create seasonal variety that drives weather patterns and gives different regions distinct growing seasons, but it's not so extreme that it creates unbearable temperature swings that would make life impossible. But here's the mind-blowing part. Without the moon, this tilt wouldn't stay at a nice, stable 23.5 degrees. Instead, it would swing wildly back and forth over time periods of thousands to millions of years, sometimes being nearly upright with almost no seasons at all, and other times being tilted so far over that the poles would be hotter than the equator. Imagine trying to evolve complex life in conditions where the climate completely changes its fundamental character every few 100,000 years. One era might have permanent ice ages. The next might have scorching heat at the poles and freezing cold at the equator. Life would be constantly starting over, never getting the chance to develop the sophisticated adaptations we see in today's plants and animals. We don't have to imagine what this kind of chaos looks like, because we can observe it happening right now on Mars. Mars doesn't have a large moon, like Earth does. Its two tiny moons, Phobos and Deimos, are basically captured asteroids that are far too small to provide any meaningful gravitational stability. As a result, Mars's axial tilt varies dramatically over time. Right now, Mars is tilted at about 25 degrees, similar to Earth. But scientists have calculated that over the past few million years, its tilt has swung anywhere from 15 degrees to 35 degrees. And in the distant past, it may have been tilted as much as 60 degrees, or even completely upside down. What does this mean for Mars' climate? It means that Mars experiences climate changes so extreme they make Earth's ice ages look like gentle fluctuations. When Mars's tilt is low, around 15 degrees, the planet has very mild seasons, and most of its water ice accumulates at the poles. But when the tilt increases to 35 degrees or more, the poles become so hot during summer that the ice caps completely sublimate. That means they turn directly from ice into gas without melting first. This creates massive dust storms that can cover the entire planet for months, and it redistributes water and carbon dioxide around the planet in ways that completely transform the atmosphere and surface conditions. Scientists studying Mars have found evidence of these dramatic climate swings everywhere. The layered deposits at Mars's poles show clear signs of repeated cycles where ice accumulated and then disappeared completely. The planet's surface is covered with features that could only have formed under completely different climate conditions than exist today. Some areas show signs of ancient rivers and lakes, while others show evidence of massive glaciers that covered regions that are now bone dry. This is what happens to a planet when its axial tilt isn't stabilized by a large moon. It becomes a world of constant climate revolution, where conditions never stay stable long enough for complex ecosystems to develop. The discovery of Mars's unstable tilt was actually one of the key pieces of evidence that helped scientists understand just how important the moon is for Earth's climate stability. The calculations were first worked out by a brilliant Serbian scientist named Milutin Milankovic in the early 1900s. Milankovic was trying to understand what caused Earth's ice ages, and he developed mathematical models that showed how small changes in Earth's orbit and tilt could drive long-term climate cycles. His work was initially dismissed by many scientists, but decades later, when researchers started finding evidence of these cycles in ice cores and ocean sediments, Milankovic was vindicated as one of the greatest climate scientists of all time. What Milankovic discovered was that Earth's climate is influenced by three main orbital cycles. First, there's the shape of Earth's orbit around the Sun, which changes from more circular to more oval-shaped over a cycle of about 100,000 years. Second, there's the tilt of Earth's axis, which varies slightly between 22.1 and 24.5 degrees over a cycle of about 41,000 years. Third, there's the wobble of Earth's axis, kind of like how a spinning top wobbles, which completes a cycle every 26,000 years. These three cycles combine to create the pattern of ice ages that Earth has experienced over the past few million years. But here's the crucial point. These Milankovitch cycles only work because the Moon keeps them small and predictable. The Moon's gravitational influence limits how much Earth's tilt can vary, keeping it between those safe limits of 22.1 and 24.5 degrees. Without the Moon, Earth's tilt could vary by 85 degrees or more, completely overwhelming the other orbital cycles and creating climate chaos that would make the ice ages look like minor temperature adjustments. To understand why the Moon has this stabilizing effect, think about how a gyroscope works. A spinning gyroscope resists any attempt to change its orientation because of something called angular momentum. Earth is like a giant gyroscope spinning through space, and it naturally resists changes to its tilt. But over very long periods of time, the gravitational pull of other planets, especially Jupiter and Saturn, can gradually push Earth's axis around. The Moon's gravity acts like an additional stabilizing force, adding its pull to Earth's natural resistance to change and making the whole system much more stable. The size of the Moon is crucial for this stabilizing effect. The Moon is unusually large compared to Earth, about 1/4 of Earth's diameter, making the Earth-Moon system almost like a double planet rather than a typical planet and moon system. This large size means the Moon has enough gravitational influence to really anchor Earth's orientation in space. Most other planets have much smaller moons that can't provide this kind of stability, which is one reason why large moons like ours appear to be quite rare in the universe. Computer simulations have shown us exactly what would happen to Earth's climate without the Moon's stabilizing influence. The results are sobering. Within a few 100,000 years, Earth's tilt would start wandering dramatically. Sometimes the planet would be tilted so much that the sun would shine directly on the poles for months at a time while the equator remained in permanent shadow. The polar ice caps would melt completely, raising sea levels by hundreds of feet and creating a greenhouse effect that would make the planet extremely hot. Then, as the tilt continued to change, the opposite would happen. The poles would become so cold that ice sheets would advance toward the equator, potentially covering most of the planet in a snowball Earth scenario. These extreme climate swings would happen over and over again, with no predictable pattern. Evolution requires time and stability to work. It takes millions of years for species to develop complex adaptations like flight, intelligence, or sophisticated social behaviors. If the climate was constantly changing in fundamental ways every few 100,000 years, evolution would never get the chance to develop these advanced features. Life would be stuck in a perpetual cycle of extinction and reemergence, never progressing beyond simple, rapidly reproducing organisms that could quickly adapt to changing conditions. The Moon's stabilizing influence has been absolutely crucial for the development of complex ecosystems on Earth. The relatively stable climate patterns we've had over the past several 100 million years have allowed evolution to develop incredible specializations. Plants have been able to evolve complex relationships with specific pollinators because both the plants and the pollinators could count on relatively predictable seasonal patterns. Animals have been able to develop migration patterns that depend on consistent seasonal changes in temperature and food availability. Marine ecosystems have been able to develop intricate food webs because ocean circulation patterns have remained relatively stable. Even the ice ages that Earth has experienced have been gentle compared to what would happen without the Moon. The ice ages, driven by Milankovitch cycles, involve gradual changes in temperature that happen over thousands of years, giving ecosystems time to migrate and adapt. Many species actually survived multiple ice ages by moving to more favorable climates and then recolonizing their original territories when conditions improved. This wouldn't be possible with the rapid, extreme climate changes that would occur without the Moon's stabilizing influence. The seasons themselves, caused by Earth's stable 23.5-degree tilt, have been incredibly important for the evolution of life. Seasonal changes create natural rhythms that many organisms use to time their reproduction, migration, and other important life events. The yearly cycle of spring growth, summer abundance, fall preparation, and winter rest has shaped the evolution of everything from deciduous trees that drop their leaves in winter to birds that migrate thousands of miles to follow favorable conditions. Recent research has revealed even more subtle ways that the Moon's stabilizing influence has shaped life on Earth. Scientists studying ancient climate records have found that the stability provided by the Moon has allowed Earth to maintain liquid water on its surface for billions of years. Without this stability, the planet might have experienced periods where all water froze into ice or all water boiled away into vapor, making life impossible. The Moon's stabilizing effect has kept Earth in what scientists call the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right for liquid water and life. The importance of axial stability has major implications for our search for life on other planets. As astronomers discover more and more planets orbiting other stars, they're realizing that just being in the right orbit around a star isn't enough for a planet to support complex life. The planet also needs to have stable climate conditions over very long periods of time, and that likely requires a large moon or some other stabilizing influence. This might help explain why we haven't found obvious signs of complex life elsewhere in the universe. Stable climate conditions might be much rarer than we initially thought. Looking toward the future, scientists have calculated that the Moon will continue to provide this stabilizing influence for billions of years to come. Although the Moon is gradually moving away from Earth, it's doing so very slowly, and it will remain large enough to stabilize our planet's tilt for the foreseeable future. This long-term stability gives evolution plenty of time to continue developing new forms of life and increasing complexity on our planet. The Moon's role as Earth's cosmic stabilizer is one of those invisible but absolutely crucial factors that makes our planet special. Every day, as Earth spins through space, the Moon is there, quietly doing its job of keeping us steady and preventing the kind of chaotic climate swings that would make complex life impossible. It's a reminder that the development of life on Earth wasn't just a matter of luck. It required a very specific set of conditions, including the steady gravitational anchor that has kept our planet's climate stable enough for evolution to work its slow magic over billions of years. Without our cosmic stabilizer watching over us, Earth would be just another chaotic world where life never gets the chance to flourish and grow into the amazing diversity we see today. Here's something that's going to completely change how you think about time itself. Right now, as you're watching this video, you're experiencing a day that lasts exactly 24 hours. But this wasn't always the case. In fact, when life was first getting started on Earth, a single day lasted only about 6 hours. That means the sun would rise, cross the sky, and set again in the same amount of time it takes you to watch a long movie today. The reason our days have stretched from 6 hours to 24 hours isn't some cosmic accident. It's the result of a 4.5 billion year partnership between Earth and the Moon, with the Moon acting as a gentle but persistent brake pedal, gradually slowing our planet's spin and creating the perfect rhythm for complex life to flourish. When we left our story, the early Moon had just finished its violent birth and was orbiting much closer to Earth than it does today. At that close distance, the Moon's gravitational pull on Earth was incredibly strong, creating those massive tides we talked about earlier. But those same tidal forces were also doing something else. They were gradually stealing energy from Earth's rotation. Every time the tide rose and fell, every time those massive walls of water swept across the planet's surface, they created friction against the seafloor and coastlines. And friction, as any physicist will tell you, always slows things down. Think about how this worked in the early days. As Earth spun rapidly on its axis, completing a full rotation in just 6 hours, the planet's surface was moving faster than the tidal bulges created by the Moon's gravity. The solid Earth was essentially trying to spin out from under the water bulges, and this created enormous friction forces. It's similar to what happens when you try to spin a wet basketball. The water creates drag that slows down the spinning motion. Except in Earth's case, this process has been going on for billions of years, gradually and persistently slowing our planet's rotation. The physics behind this process is actually quite elegant. The tidal bulges on Earth don't line up perfectly with the Moon because Earth is spinning faster than the Moon is orbiting. This misalignment means that Earth's gravity pulls on the Moon slightly forward in its orbit, which speeds up the Moon and causes it to gradually move farther away from Earth. At the same time, the Moon's gravity pulls back on Earth's tidal bulges, which slows down Earth's rotation. It's like a cosmic energy transfer system, where Earth's rotational energy is gradually being converted into the Moon's orbital energy. This process is still happening today, though much more slowly than in the past. Currently, Earth's rotation is slowing down by about 1.7 milliseconds per century, and the Moon is moving away from Earth at a rate of about 3.8 centimeters per year, roughly the same rate that your fingernails grow. That might not sound like much, but over geological timescales, these tiny changes add up to enormous differences. But how do we know that Earth's days were really only 6 hours long, billions of years ago? The evidence comes from some of the most unlikely sources you can imagine. Ancient corals, clams, and even bacterial mats that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. These organisms were unknowingly keeping detailed records of day length that scientists can read today like pages in a history book. Here's how it works. Many marine organisms build their shells or skeletons in daily layers, kind of like how trees add growth rings each year. Corals are particularly good at this. They add a thin layer of calcium carbonate to their skeleton every single day. During the day, when sunlight is available, they grow faster and create a slightly thicker, less dense layer. At night, growth slows down, and they create a thinner, denser layer. Scientists can see these daily growth bands under microscopes, and by counting them, they can figure out how many days were in a year when that coral was alive. When researchers first started examining fossil corals from different time periods, they discovered something amazing. Corals that lived 400 million years ago show about 400 daily growth bands per year instead of the 365 we see today. This means that 400 million years ago, there were 400 days in a year, which means each day was only about 22 hours long instead of 24. Going back even further, to corals that lived 600 million years ago, the pattern shows even more days per year, indicating even shorter days. The evidence doesn't stop with corals. Ancient clams and other shellfish show the same patterns. Even more fascinating are stromatolites, layered structures built by ancient bacteria that are some of the oldest evidence of life on Earth. These bacterial communities were sensitive to daily cycles of sunlight, and they created thin layers that correspond to daily growth patterns. Stromatolites that are over 3 billion years old show clear evidence of much shorter days, supporting the idea that early Earth was spinning much faster. But the most convincing evidence comes from a completely different source: the physics of how planetary systems work. When scientists model how Earth and the Moon should have evolved over time, taking into account tidal friction and energy transfer, the math predicts exactly the pattern we see in the fossil record. The calculations show that Earth should have started with days around 6 hours long, and they should have gradually lengthened to the 24-hour days we have today. The fossil evidence matches the theoretical predictions perfectly. Now, you might be wondering why this matters for life. After all, couldn't organisms just adapt to whatever day length they found themselves living in? The answer is more complicated than you might think. It turns out that the 24-hour day length we have today isn't just arbitrary. It's close to optimal for complex life. And the gradual change from 6-hour days to 24-hour days provided the perfect evolutionary pathway for life to develop increasingly sophisticated rhythms and cycles. The key is something called circadian rhythms, the internal biological clocks that almost all living organisms have. These clocks help coordinate everything from when plants open and close their leaves to when animals sleep and wake up. But circadian rhythms aren't just arbitrary. They're tied to fundamental biological processes that work best on roughly 24-hour cycles. For example, consider photosynthesis in plants. During the day, plants use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into sugar and oxygen. But photosynthesis is just half the story. At night, plants use a process called respiration to break down some of those sugars and use the energy for growth, repair, and other essential functions. This daily cycle of building up energy during the day and using it at night works best when days and nights are long enough for both processes to complete their full cycles. If days were too short, like the 6-hour days of early Earth, plants wouldn't have enough time to build up sufficient energy reserves during daylight hours. If days were too long, plants would either waste energy by continuing photosynthesis longer than necessary, or they would shut down photosynthesis early and miss opportunities to collect solar energy. The 24-hour cycle provides the perfect balance: enough daylight for efficient photosynthesis and enough nighttime for essential metabolic processes. The same principle applies to animals. Most animals have evolved sleep-wake cycles that depend on having adequate time for both activity and rest. During active periods, animals hunt for food, find mates, build shelters, and perform other survival activities. During rest periods, they repair tissues, consolidate memories, and perform other maintenance functions that can't happen efficiently while they're active. Again, the 24-hour cycle provides an ideal framework for balancing these competing needs. But here's the really fascinating part. The gradual change in day length over geological time provided a perfect evolutionary ramp for life to adapt. Early simple organisms could function fine with 6-hour days because they didn't have complex metabolic cycles or sophisticated behaviors. But as life became more complex, organisms could gradually adjust their internal rhythms to take advantage of the slowly lengthening days. This gradual change gave evolution time to optimize biological processes for longer day-night cycles without ever creating a situation where day length changed too rapidly for life to adapt. The development of circadian rhythms also had profound effects on evolution and ecology. Once organisms developed internal clocks that could track daily cycles, they could start timing their activities to avoid competitors, find optimal conditions, or coordinate with other members of their species. For example, many flowers open at specific times of day when their preferred pollinators are most active. Many animals time their reproduction to coincide with optimal environmental conditions. These kinds of sophisticated timing strategies would be impossible without reliable circadian clocks, which in turn depend on having predictable day-night cycles. Modern research has revealed just how deeply embedded circadian rhythms are in all living things. Even bacteria and single-celled organisms have molecular clocks that help them coordinate their activities with daily cycles. In complex organisms like mammals, virtually every cell in the body has its own molecular clock, and these clocks are coordinated by a master clock in the brain. Disrupting these rhythms, for example, through jet lag or shift work, can have serious health consequences, showing just how fundamental these daily cycles are to proper biological function. The 24-hour day has also been crucial for the development of complex ecosystems. Many ecological relationships depend on precise timing. Predators need to hunt when prey is available. Plants need to release pollen when pollinators are active, and migration needs to be timed to seasonal changes. These complex ecological dances are only possible when all participants are operating on similar, predictable rhythms. Looking at this from an even broader perspective, the moon's role in gradually slowing Earth's rotation may have been one of the most important factors in allowing life to become complex and sophisticated. If Earth had maintained its original 6-hour rotation, or if the slowing had happened too quickly, life might have remained simple and primitive. The moon provided the perfect schedule for life's development, slow enough that organisms could gradually adapt their internal rhythms, but steady enough that there was always pressure to optimize biological processes for the current day length. Scientists have also discovered that the moon's influence on day length has had important effects on Earth's magnetic field. The planet's magnetic field is generated by the motion of liquid iron in Earth's core, and this motion is influenced by Earth's rotation rate. The gradual slowing of rotation has helped maintain a stable magnetic field over geological time, which has protected life from harmful solar radiation. Without this protection, life on Earth's surface would have been much more difficult, especially for the complex organisms that eventually evolved. As we look toward the future, the moon will continue its slow work of lengthening Earth's days. In about 600 million years, if current trends continue, Earth days will be about 25 hours long. Eventually, in the very distant future, Earth's rotation will slow down so much that one side of the planet will permanently face the moon, just like how one side of the moon permanently faces Earth today. At that point, days will last about 47 current hours, and the gradual slowing will stop because Earth and the moon will be tidally locked together. But don't worry about this affecting life on Earth anytime soon. The changes happen so slowly that evolution will have plenty of time to adapt. Life has already proven its ability to adjust to changing day lengths over the past 4.5 billion years. And there's no reason to think it can't continue adapting in the future. The moon's role as time's architect demonstrates yet another way that our satellite has been essential for life's development on Earth. By providing a gradual, steady transition from the hyperactive 6-hour days of early Earth to the optimal 24-hour days we enjoy today, the moon created the perfect schedule for life to evolve complex biological rhythms, sophisticated behaviors, and intricate ecological relationships. Without this cosmic timekeeper gradually adjusting our planetary clock, Earth might still be a world of simple organisms struggling to cope with the frantic pace of ultra-short days, never developing the complexity and beauty of life we see around us today. We've talked about how the moon created the laboratories where life began, stabilized our climate, and gave us the perfect rhythm for biological processes to flourish. But there's another absolutely crucial role the moon plays that affects every single living thing on our planet, even though most people never think about it. Right now, as you're reading this, the moon is operating Earth's greatest circulation system, a massive network of ocean currents that moves nutrients, heat, and oxygen around the globe, keeping marine ecosystems healthy and regulating our planet's climate. Without the moon constantly stirring our oceans, the seas would become lifeless, stagnant pools, and Earth's climate would be completely different from what we know today. To understand how this works, we need to think about the oceans not as static bodies of water, but as dynamic, three-dimensional rivers that flow both horizontally across the ocean surface and vertically from the deep ocean floor, all the way up to the surface. These currents are driven by several different forces: wind, temperature differences, salt concentration differences, and crucially, the moon's tidal forces. While most people think of tides as just the rising and falling of water levels at the beach, the reality is much more complex and fascinating. Tides actually create massive underwater currents that flow back and forth across entire ocean basins twice every day, and these tidal currents are one of the most important mixing forces in the ocean. Imagine the ocean like a giant pot of soup that needs to be constantly stirred to prevent the ingredients from separating and settling. Without stirring, all the heavy ingredients would sink to the bottom, all the light ingredients would float to the top, and you'd end up with layers that don't mix together. The ocean faces the same problem. Without mixing, all the nutrients would sink to the bottom, all the oxygen would stay at the surface, and different layers of water with different temperatures and salt levels would remain completely separate. This layered, unmixed ocean would be largely lifeless, because most marine organisms need both nutrients and oxygen to survive. But without mixing, very few places in the ocean would have both. The moon solves this problem by acting like a giant spoon that constantly stirs the ocean. Every time the tide comes in and goes out, massive volumes of water move horizontally across the ocean floor and vertically between different depths. This tidal mixing brings nutrient-rich water from the deep ocean up to the surface, where marine plants can use the nutrients for photosynthesis. At the same time, it carries oxygen-rich surface water down to deeper levels where deep-sea organisms can breathe. This vertical mixing is absolutely essential for maintaining healthy ocean ecosystems. But the moon's influence goes far beyond simple vertical mixing. Tidal currents also enhance the ocean's great horizontal circulation, systems that move heat around the globe and regulate Earth's climate. The most important of these is something called the thermohaline circulation, sometimes nicknamed the global conveyor belt. This massive circulation system moves water around all of Earth's oceans in a pattern that takes about 1,000 years to complete a full cycle. Warm, salty water flows along the surface from the equator toward the poles, where it cools down and becomes denser. This cold, dense water then sinks to the bottom of the ocean and flows back toward the equator along the ocean floor, where it gradually warms up and rises back to the surface to complete the cycle. This global circulation system is crucial for Earth's climate because it redistributes heat from the warm equatorial regions to the cold polar regions, helping to moderate temperatures around the world. Without this heat transport, the equator would be much hotter than it is today, and the poles would be much colder. The difference would be so extreme that much of the planet would be uninhabitable. The circulation also affects weather patterns by influencing where storms form and how they move across the oceans. Now, here's where the moon comes in. While the thermohaline circulation is primarily driven by temperature and salt differences, tidal mixing plays a crucial role in keeping it running smoothly. The constant tidal stirring prevents the ocean from becoming too strongly layered, which would slow down or even shut down the global circulation. Research has shown that tidal mixing provides about 30% of all the vertical mixing energy in the ocean, and this mixing is essential for maintaining the density differences that drive the global conveyor belt. Scientists have used sophisticated computer models to simulate what Earth's ocean circulation would look like without tidal mixing, and the results are dramatic. Without the moon's constant stirring, the oceans would become much more strongly stratified, with distinct layers that rarely mix with each other. The global conveyor belt circulation would slow down significantly or potentially shut down completely in some regions. This would have catastrophic effects on both marine ecosystems and global climate. Let's start with what this would mean for marine life. The surface layers of the ocean would quickly become depleted of nutrients as marine plants used up all the available nitrogen, phosphorus, and other essential elements for photosynthesis. Without tidal mixing to bring fresh nutrients up from the deep ocean, these surface waters would become biological deserts where very little life could survive. At the same time, the deep ocean would become oxygen poor as organisms used up the available oxygen and no new oxygen-rich water could mix down from the surface. Large areas of the deep ocean would become dead zones where nothing could live. This isn't just theoretical speculation. Scientists have observed similar conditions in parts of the modern ocean, where mixing is reduced due to unusual circumstances. For example, some enclosed seas and deep ocean basins that have limited connection to the main ocean circulation systems show exactly these kinds of problems: nutrient-depleted surface waters and oxygen-poor deep waters that support very little life. These areas give us a preview of what all the oceans would look like without tidal mixing. The effects on marine food webs would be devastating. The tiny floating plants called phytoplankton that form the base of almost all marine food chains depend on both sunlight from above and nutrients from below. Without tidal mixing to bring nutrients to the surface, phytoplankton populations would crash, and this collapse would ripple up through the entire food web. Fish populations would plummet, marine mammals would struggle to find food, and coastal ecosystems that depend on nutrients washed in from the ocean would become impoverished. But the effects wouldn't stop in the ocean. The shutdown of ocean circulation would fundamentally alter Earth's climate in ways that would affect life on land as well. Ocean currents are responsible for carrying about 40% of the heat that moves from the equator toward the poles, which is crucial for maintaining the relatively moderate climate differences we see around the world today. Without this heat transport, the tropics would become unbearably hot, while higher latitudes would become much colder, creating extreme climate zones that would be difficult for most life forms to survive. The climate effects would also include major changes in rainfall patterns. Ocean currents strongly influence where and when it rains because they control the temperature and humidity of the air masses that form over different parts of the ocean. Without normal ocean circulation, many regions that are currently fertile and well-watered would become dry, while other areas might experience excessive rainfall. These changes would transform ecosystems on land just as dramatically as the changes in the ocean. Modern research has revealed just how important tidal mixing is for maintaining the ocean's biological productivity. Scientists using satellite data to measure ocean color, which indicates the amount of phytoplankton in the water, have found clear correlations between tidal mixing strength and biological productivity. Areas of the ocean where tidal currents are strongest tend to be the most biologically productive, supporting large populations of fish and other marine life. Conversely, areas where tidal mixing is weak tend to be biological deserts with very little life. One of the most dramatic examples of this effect can be seen in places where underwater mountains or ridges force deep, nutrient-rich water up to the surface. These areas, called upwelling zones, are among the most productive marine ecosystems on Earth, supporting huge populations of fish, seabirds, and marine mammals. While upwelling is primarily driven by wind and ocean currents, tidal mixing plays an important role in enhancing and maintaining these productive zones. Researchers have also discovered that tidal mixing is crucial for the ocean's ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The ocean currently absorbs about 25% of all the carbon dioxide released by human activities, helping to slow down climate change. This absorption happens primarily at the ocean surface, but the absorbed carbon dioxide needs to be mixed down into deeper waters to make room for more absorption at the surface. Tidal mixing is one of the key processes that makes this deep mixing possible. So without it, the ocean's ability to absorb carbon dioxide would be significantly reduced. The importance of tidal mixing extends to coastal ecosystems as well. Estuaries, where rivers meet the ocean, are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth, supporting crucial nursery habitats for many fish species and providing essential ecosystem services like water filtration and storm protection for coastal communities. The health of these estuaries depends critically on the mixing of fresh river water with salty ocean water, a process that is strongly enhanced by tidal currents. Without tidal mixing, estuaries would become stagnant and much less productive. Coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, because of their incredible biodiversity, also depend heavily on tidal mixing. Corals are animals that build their skeletons from calcium carbonate, but they also host tiny algae that provide them with food through photosynthesis. This partnership between coral animals and algae requires a constant supply of nutrients for the algae and a constant removal of waste products from the coral. Tidal currents provide both of these services, bringing fresh nutrients and carrying away wastes, which is why coral reefs are typically found in areas with strong tidal mixing. The timing and strength of tidal mixing also play important roles in the reproductive cycles of many marine organisms. Many species have evolved to time their reproduction to coincide with specific tidal conditions that optimize the survival of their offspring. For example, many fish spawn during spring tides, the strongest tides that occur during new and full moons, because the enhanced mixing during these periods distributes their eggs and larvae more effectively and provides better feeding conditions for the young fish. Scientists studying the fossil record have found evidence that tidal mixing has been important for marine ecosystems throughout Earth's history. During periods when the moon was closer to Earth and tidal forces were stronger, the fossil record shows evidence of more intense mixing and higher biological productivity in marine environments. Conversely, during periods when tidal forces were weaker, marine productivity appears to have been lower. Looking toward the future, scientists are concerned about how human activities might be affecting the ocean's natural mixing processes. Climate change is altering temperature and salinity patterns in the ocean, which could affect the strength of thermohaline circulation. Pollution and overfishing are disrupting marine ecosystems that depend on natural mixing patterns. Understanding the moon's role in ocean mixing helps scientists predict how these changes might affect the ocean's ability to support life and regulate climate. The moon's role as the operator of Earth's ocean circulation system demonstrates yet another way that our satellite has been essential for creating and maintaining the conditions necessary for complex life. By constantly stirring the oceans, bringing nutrients to the surface, carrying oxygen to the depths, and maintaining the global circulation patterns that regulate climate, the moon keeps Earth's marine ecosystems healthy and productive. Without this constant mixing, our oceans would be largely lifeless, our climate would be much more extreme, and the intricate web of life that connects marine and terrestrial ecosystems would never have been able to develop. The moon doesn't just light up our nights and control our tides. It operates the great machine that keeps our entire planet's life support system running smoothly. Everything we've discussed so far about the moon's crucial role in shaping life on Earth has been understood for decades. But here's where the story gets really exciting. We're living through a golden age of lunar science where new discoveries are being made almost every month. Advanced satellites, sophisticated computer models, and cutting-edge laboratory techniques are revealing aspects of the Earth-Moon relationship that scientists never imagined just a few years ago. These modern discoveries aren't just filling in details of an old story. They're completely revolutionizing our understanding of how essential the moon has been for life, and they're giving us incredible insights into what the future holds for our planet and our search for life elsewhere in the universe. One of the most mind-blowing recent discoveries came in 2022 when researchers at the University of Rochester used advanced computer simulations to model the moon's formation with unprecedented accuracy. What they found was that the giant impact wasn't just a single collision, but potentially a series of impacts that happened over several million years. This discovery helps explain some puzzling aspects of the moon's composition that had been bothering scientists for decades. The simulations show that multiple impacts would have created even more complex mixing of materials, leading to the specific chemical signatures we see in moon rocks today. This finding doesn't change the fundamental story of how the moon formed, but it shows that the process was even more dramatic and complex than we previously imagined. Another revolutionary discovery involves something called the moon's fossil bulge. Scientists have known for decades that the moon isn't perfectly round. It's slightly egg-shaped, with a bulge pointing toward Earth. For years, researchers assumed this bulge was caused by Earth's current gravitational pull. But new analysis published in 2023 revealed something incredible. This bulge is actually a fossil from the moon's early history, when it was much closer to Earth and partially molten. The bulge was frozen in place as the moon cooled and solidified, creating a permanent record of the intense tidal forces that existed billions of years ago. This discovery gives us direct physical evidence of just how close the early moon was to Earth, and how powerful those early tidal forces really were. Modern technology has also revealed new details about how the moon continues to influence life today. In 2021, researchers using advanced GPS tracking and satellite imagery discovered that the moon's gravitational effects extend far beyond ocean tides. They found that the solid Earth itself, the ground beneath our feet, actually rises and falls by up to 20 inches twice daily due to lunar gravity. These Earth tides affect groundwater flow, influence earthquake timing, and even impact the growth patterns of some plants, whose roots are sensitive to these subtle changes in soil pressure. This discovery shows that the moon's influence on Earth is even more pervasive than we realized. One of the most important recent discoveries involves the moon's role in Earth's magnetic field. Scientists have long known that Earth's magnetic field protects us from harmful solar radiation. But new research published in 2024 revealed that the moon may have played a crucial role in maintaining this protective shield. Computer models show that the gradual slowing of Earth's rotation caused by tidal friction has helped maintain the optimal conditions in Earth's core for generating a strong, stable magnetic field. Without this slowing, Earth's magnetic field might have weakened or disappeared entirely billions of years ago, leaving our planet's surface exposed to deadly radiation that would have prevented complex life from evolving. The implications of this discovery are staggering. It means the moon hasn't just been shaping life through tides, climate stability, and ocean circulation. It's also been protecting life by helping maintain the magnetic shield that makes Earth's surface habitable. This adds yet another item to the already long list of ways the moon has been essential for life's development, and it suggests that large moons might be even more important for habitability than scientists previously thought. Recent studies have also revealed fascinating new details about how the moon's influence on life continues today. Researchers studying migration patterns have discovered that many animals, from sea turtles to Arctic terns, use subtle magnetic field variations caused by lunar tides to navigate during long-distance migrations. Plants have been found to show lunar rhythms in their growth patterns, with some species growing faster during certain phases of the moon. Even human physiology shows subtle lunar influences. Several studies have found correlations between lunar cycles and sleep patterns, though the mechanisms behind these effects are still being investigated. But perhaps the most exciting modern discoveries involve what the moon tells us about finding life elsewhere in the universe. The more we learn about the moon's essential role in making Earth habitable, the more we realize that the search for extraterrestrial life needs to focus not just on finding planets in the right orbit around their stars, but on finding planetary systems with large moons. This has led to an entirely new field of research called exomoon detection, the search for moons orbiting planets around other stars. Dr. Sarah Seeger at MIT, one of the leading researchers in this field, has developed new techniques for detecting exomoons using the subtle gravitational effects they have on their parent planets. When a planet with a large moon passes in front of its star as seen from Earth, the moon's gravity causes tiny variations in the planet's position that can be measured with extremely sensitive instruments. So far, scientists have found tentative evidence for several potential exomoons, though confirming their existence requires years of careful observation. The search for exomoons has become particularly important because of what we now understand about habitability. Planets in the habitable zone around their stars, the distance where liquid water can exist, might not actually be habitable without large moons to provide climate stability, appropriate day lengths, and active ocean mixing. This realization has led some scientists to propose that we should be looking specifically for Earth-Moon analog systems, planets with large moons similar to our own, as the most promising targets in the search for complex life. One of the most intriguing possibilities involves the moons of gas giant planets like Jupiter and Saturn. While these gas giants are too far from the Sun to be habitable themselves, some of their large moons might be in the right position to support life if they have the right characteristics. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, is already known to have a subsurface ocean that might harbor life. But new research suggests that the complex gravitational interactions between Jupiter and its many moons create tidal forces that are surprisingly similar to the forces that shaped early life on Earth. Scientists are now investigating whether these Jovian moon systems might represent alternative pathways for life to develop in our solar system. Looking toward the future of the Earth-Moon system itself, modern calculations have given us precise predictions about what will happen over the next billions of years. The moon's gradual recession will continue at its current rate of about 3.8 centimeters per year for roughly the next 50 billion years. However, other factors will intervene long before then. In about 5 billion years, our sun will begin expanding into a red giant star, dramatically altering conditions in the solar system. But even before that happens, the moon's increasing distance will have significant effects on Earth. In about 1.4 billion years, the moon will be far enough away that total solar eclipses will no longer be possible. This might seem like a minor astronomical detail, but solar eclipses have been incredibly important for advancing human understanding of astronomy and physics. Many fundamental discoveries about the sun's structure and behavior have been made during eclipses, and the coincidence that the moon appears almost exactly the same size as the sun in our sky has been called one of the most remarkable facts about the Earth-Moon system. More significantly, in about 2 billion years, the moon's recession will begin to noticeably affect Earth's climate stability. The reduced tidal forces will mean less ocean mixing, potentially leading to stratified oceans similar to what we discussed earlier. The weakening of the moon's stabilizing effect on Earth's axial tilt will allow for larger variations in the planet's orientation, leading to more extreme climate swings. However, life will have had 2 billion years to adapt to these gradually changing conditions. And evolution has proven remarkably adaptable over such timescales. The most dramatic changes will occur in the very distant future, roughly 50 billion years from now, if the Earth-Moon system could survive that long. At that point, Earth's rotation will have slowed so much that Earth days will last about 47 current hours, and the same side of Earth will permanently face the Moon, just as the same side of the Moon currently faces Earth. This tidally locked state will represent the end of the Moon's gradual recession, as there will no longer be any tidal friction to transfer energy between Earth's rotation and the Moon's orbit. These future scenarios have important implications for how we think about the long-term survival of life on Earth. While the changes will happen very slowly, giving evolution plenty of time to adapt, they suggest that Earth's current conditions, with strong tidal mixing, stable climate, and optimal day length, represent a kind of golden age for complex life that won't last forever. This realization adds urgency to our efforts to understand and preserve Earth's current biosphere, and it highlights the importance of developing space technology that might eventually allow life to spread to other worlds. The study of the Earth-Moon system's future also provides insights into what might have happened on other worlds. Many of the planets we've discovered orbiting other stars are much closer to their parent stars than Earth is to the Sun, which means they likely experienced much stronger tidal forces early in their histories. Some of these planets might have become tidally locked to their stars, with permanent day and night sides that create extreme climate conditions. Understanding how tidal forces have shaped the Earth-Moon system helps scientists predict what conditions might be like on these distant worlds and whether they could support life. Recent research has also revealed that the Moon's influence on Earth extends into space through effects on our planet's magnetosphere, the region around Earth dominated by our magnetic field. The Moon's orbit takes it through different parts of this magnetosphere, and its gravitational effects help shape the flow of charged particles from the solar wind. This has implications for space weather and the formation of auroras, and it might even affect the evolution of Earth's upper atmosphere over geological timescales. Perhaps most importantly, these modern discoveries are changing how we think about planetary habitability in general. The traditional approach to searching for habitable worlds focused mainly on finding planets at the right distance from their stars to have liquid water. But we now understand that habitability depends on a much more complex set of factors, including having a large moon to provide climate stability and ocean mixing, having the right rotation rate to support complex biological rhythms, and having a strong magnetic field to protect against radiation. This new understanding suggests that truly Earth-like worlds, planets that could support complex, diverse ecosystems similar to what we see on Earth, might be much rarer than we previously thought. It might also help explain why we haven't yet found obvious signs of technological civilizations elsewhere in the universe, despite the enormous number of stars and planets we now know exist. If the conditions for complex life are much more specific and rare than we initially assumed, then Earth might indeed be a very unusual world, and the Moon might be one of the key factors that makes our planet special. The implications extend beyond just finding life. They also affect how we think about preserving and protecting life on Earth. Understanding the Moon's crucial role in maintaining Earth's habitability reminds us that our planet's life-supporting systems depend on a delicate balance of factors that extend far beyond Earth itself. The Earth-Moon system is a partnership that has been essential for life's development over billions of years, and disrupting this partnership through space activities or other interventions could have consequences we're only beginning to understand. As we continue to explore these questions, new technologies are providing unprecedented tools for studying the Earth-Moon relationship. Laser-ranging experiments that bounce light off reflectors placed on the Moon by Apollo astronauts are measuring the Moon's distance with millimeter precision. Gravity mapping satellites are revealing the internal structure of both Earth and Moon in incredible detail. Advanced climate models are showing how the Moon's effects ripple through Earth's entire system, from the deep ocean to the upper atmosphere. All of this research is painting a picture of the Moon not just as Earth's companion, but as an active partner in maintaining the conditions that make our planet a living world. The more we learn, the more we realize that the story of life on Earth cannot be told without understanding the crucial role played by that bright, familiar face looking down at us from the night sky. As we reach the end of this incredible journey through 4.5 billion years of cosmic partnership, I want you to take a moment and think about what we've just discovered together. We started this video with a simple question. What if the Moon is more than just Earth's beautiful companion? Now, after exploring the latest scientific research and following the evidence wherever it led us, we have our answer. The Moon isn't just influencing life on Earth. It literally created the conditions that made life possible in the first place, and it continues to maintain those conditions every single day. Think about the extraordinary chain of events that had to happen exactly right for you to be here watching this video. First, a Mars-sized planet called Theia had to collide with the early Earth at precisely the right angle, at precisely the right speed, and at precisely the right time in our planet's formation. Too steep an angle, and both planets would have been completely destroyed. Too shallow, and no moon would have formed. Too early, and the collision wouldn't have created the right chemical mix. Too late, and any existing life would have been wiped out. The odds of this perfect collision were less than 1 in a billion, yet it happened, creating our Moon and setting the stage for everything that followed. From that violent birth, the Moon immediately began its work as life's architect. Those massive early tides, hundreds of feet high, weren't forces of destruction. They were forces of creation, building the first laboratories where simple chemicals could concentrate, combine, and eventually spark into the first forms of life. Charles Darwin suspected that life began in warm little ponds, but the reality was even more remarkable. Life began in millions of tidal pools across the entire planet, all connected by the Moon's rhythmic tides, all working together as a vast network of evolutionary experimentation. But the Moon's creativity didn't stop with just getting life started. As those first simple organisms began to multiply and evolve, the Moon was already preparing the next phase of life's development. The same tidal forces that created life's first laboratories also built the bridges that life would use to make its greatest journey. The transition from water to land. The intertidal zones created by lunar tides became training grounds, where organisms could gradually develop the abilities they needed to survive on land, learning to breathe air, to prevent water loss, and to handle the daily challenges of living between two worlds. Meanwhile, the Moon was performing another absolutely crucial job that most people never think about, acting as Earth's cosmic stabilizer. Every day, for billions of years, the Moon has been preventing our planet from wobbling chaotically through space, keeping our axial tilt steady at the perfect 23.5 degrees that gives us predictable seasons without extreme climate swings. We only have to look at Mars, with its wildly varying tilt and chaotic climate changes, to see what Earth would be like without this stabilizing influence. Life might have gotten started on an unstable Earth, but it never would have had the time and predictability needed to evolve the incredible complexity and diversity we see today. The Moon also gave life the perfect rhythm to flourish. By gradually slowing Earth's rotation from the hyperactive 6-hour days of early Earth to the optimal 24-hour days we enjoy today, the Moon created the ideal framework for complex biological processes to develop. The 24-hour cycle isn't arbitrary. It's close to perfect for photosynthesis, for sleep-wake cycles, for the countless circadian rhythms that coordinate everything from cellular metabolism to ecosystem-wide behaviors. This gradual change in day length provided the perfect evolutionary ramp, allowing life to slowly adapt its internal clocks to increasingly sophisticated rhythms without ever creating conditions that change too rapidly for adaptation. Throughout this entire process, the Moon has also been operating Earth's great circulation system, constantly stirring our oceans to prevent them from becoming stagnant, lifeless pools. The tidal mixing brings nutrients from the deep ocean to the surface where marine plants can use them, and carries oxygen-rich surface water down to the depths where deep-sea creatures can breathe. This mixing maintains the great ocean currents that distribute heat around the globe, moderating our climate and making much of our planet habitable. Without this constant stirring, our oceans would be layered like a cake, with all the nutrients at the bottom, all the oxygen at the top, and vast dead zones in between. Now, modern science is revealing that the Moon's influence extends even further than we imagined. New discoveries show that the Moon helped maintain Earth's protective magnetic field by gradually slowing our planet's rotation to the optimal rate for generating this crucial radiation shield. Research is revealing that the Moon's gravitational effects reach into every aspect of Earth's system, from groundwater flow to earthquake timing to the navigation systems used by migrating animals. We're discovering that many organisms still carry the rhythmic patterns of their tidal origins deep in their DNA, maintaining biological clocks that have been ticking in sync with the Moon for billions of years. As we look toward the future, we see that this cosmic partnership will continue for billions of years to come, though it will slowly evolve. The Moon will gradually move farther from Earth, and our planet's days will slowly grow longer. But these changes will happen so gradually that life will have plenty of time to adapt, just as it has been doing for the past 4.5 billion years. Eventually, in the far distant future, Earth and Moon will become tidally locked together. But that's so far in the future that our Sun will likely have evolved into a red giant star long before then. But perhaps the most exciting implication of everything we've learned is what it means for our search for life elsewhere in the universe. Every discovery about the Moon's essential role in creating and maintaining life on Earth suggests that we should be looking for Earth-Moon analog systems, planets with large moons that can provide the same kinds of benefits our Moon has provided. This is leading to entirely new approaches to astrobiology, with scientists developing techniques to detect moons around distant planets and trying to understand what kinds of moon-planet partnerships might be capable of supporting complex life. The rarity of the perfect collision that created our Moon suggests that Earth-like worlds might be extraordinarily uncommon in the universe. The giant impact required such specific conditions: the right size impactor, the right angle, the right timing, that it might happen to only one planet in billions. If large moons are necessary for complex life, and if large moons require these incredibly rare giant impacts to form, then planets capable of supporting sophisticated ecosystems might be among the rarest objects in the cosmos. This realization makes Earth and the moon that made Earth habitable even more precious than we already knew. We're not just living on one planet among billions. We might be living on one of the only planets in our galaxy that has been blessed with the perfect cosmic partnership needed to support the rich, diverse, complex life we see around us. Every forest, every coral reef, every flock of migrating birds, every tide pool teeming with life, all of it exists because of a cosmic accident that happened 4.5 billion years ago and the billions of years of patient nurturing that followed. But understanding the moon's crucial role also gives us a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. The next time you see a bird flying south for the winter, remember that its ancestors learned to navigate using magnetic field variations caused by lunar tides. The next time you see a flower opening in the morning, remember that its biological clock was set by billions of years of tidal rhythms. The next time you take a breath of ocean air, remember that the oxygen in that air was mixed up from the deep sea by tidal currents that have been flowing for eons. This knowledge should also inspire us to protect and preserve the incredible biosphere that the moon helped create. Every species that goes extinct represents the loss of billions of years of evolutionary history shaped by the Earth-Moon partnership. Every ecosystem that gets destroyed eliminates relationships and rhythms that developed over geological timescales. Climate change threatens to disrupt the stable conditions that the moon has helped maintain for billions of years. Understanding how rare and precious Earth's habitability really is should motivate us to be better stewards of this cosmic gift we've inherited. I want to hear from you about which aspect of the moon's influence surprised you the most. Did it blow your mind to learn that your circadian rhythms are ancient tidal echoes? Were you amazed to discover that the moon is constantly stirring our oceans to keep them alive? Did it change your perspective to realize that the moon has been operating as Earth's climate stabilizer for billions of years? Drop a comment below and let me know what you found most fascinating about this cosmic partnership. If this video has changed how you think about the moon, about Earth, or about life itself, please hit that like button to help other people discover these incredible connections. The story of how the moon shaped life on Earth is one of the most important and underappreciated stories in all of science, and sharing this knowledge helps more people understand just how remarkable our cosmic situation really is. And if you're hungry for more mind-bending science about the hidden forces that shape our universe, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. We're just getting started exploring the cosmic connections that make life possible. There are stories about how Jupiter acts as our solar system's vacuum cleaner, protecting us from asteroids and comets. There are tales of how plate tectonics, driven by radioactive decay deep in Earth's core, has recycled our planet's surface and kept our climate stable. There are mysteries about dark matter and dark energy that might be influencing the evolution of galaxies and the formation of planets like ours. The universe is full of these hidden relationships and cosmic partnerships that we're only beginning to understand. Every new discovery reveals more connections, more dependencies, more reasons to be amazed at the incredible chain of circumstances that led to us being here, conscious and able to contemplate our own existence. The moon's role in shaping life is just one chapter in this vast story of cosmic evolution, but it's a chapter that touches every living thing on our planet. As you go about your daily life, I want you to carry this knowledge with you. When you see the moon rising over the horizon, remember that you're looking at the architect of life itself. When you feel the pull of the tide at the beach, remember that you're experiencing the same forces that concentrated the first organic molecules in ancient tidal pools. When you wake up in the morning after a good night's sleep, remember that your body's rhythms were fine-tuned by billions of years of 24-hour days that the moon gradually created for us. This perspective should fill you with wonder, but also with responsibility. We are the beneficiaries of the most incredible cosmic accident in the history of our planet, followed by 4.5 billion years of patient nurturing by our lunar partner. We are the first species in Earth's history to understand this relationship and to appreciate how remarkable it is. That knowledge comes with an obligation to protect the biosphere that the moon helped create, to search for similar partnerships elsewhere in the universe, and to never take for granted the extraordinary circumstances that make our existence possible. The moon has been shaping life on Earth since before life even existed, and it will continue shaping life long after our species has evolved into something we can't even imagine today. We are just temporary participants in this ancient cosmic dance, but we have the unique privilege of being conscious participants who can understand and appreciate the choreography. That makes us incredibly fortunate, and it makes the moon not just a satellite orbiting our planet, but a partner in the greatest story ever told. The story of how the universe became aware of itself through the evolution of life and consciousness. So the next time you step outside on a clear night and see that familiar face looking down at you from the sky, remember everything we've discovered together in this video. Remember that every living thing around you, including yourself, exists because of that bright companion that has been faithfully circling our planet for billions of years. Remember that you are part of a cosmic partnership that is probably extraordinarily rare in the universe, and feel grateful for the incredible series of accidents and relationships that led to this moment of awareness and wonder. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the cosmic partnership that made life possible. If you enjoyed exploring these mind-blowing connections between the moon and life on Earth, you'll love discovering more hidden forces that shape our universe. Check out the video appearing on your screen right now about how Jupiter protects Earth from cosmic catastrophes, or explore our playlist diving deep into the cosmic accidents that created the perfect conditions for life. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing science content that will change how you see the world around you. Until next time, keep looking up, keep questioning, and never stop being amazed by the incredible universe we call home. The cosmos is full of surprises, and we're just getting started uncovering them together.